Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through all the Expanded Universe material in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite comic book series ever. It's Dark Horse's Tales of the Jedi comic book. It was one of the first ones they ever did. Now this one was very exciting because it follows two of our heroes, Nomi Sunrider and Ulic Qel-Droma, names that I will never forget. It takes place between 4,000 and 5,000 years during the Old Republic, before the Battle of Yavin, of course. This is an excellent series. It's one of the better ones that Dark Horse ever put out. In fact, on my list of top 5 best comic books, this gets number 2. It was so interesting. Once again, the style, the story, all of it was really good. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but in this video I may have to give a few because as we jump to each comic book series about these characters, I have to tell you where they are now in the adventure. So after Tales of the Jedi, which basically just introduces both of these characters to us, they then give us a 2-part series called the Freedom Nadd Uprising. And in the Freedom Nadd Uprising, the characters Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider battle the evil Freedom Nadd on the planet Onderon to free those people and stop his conquest of the galaxy. It's a basic good versus evil plot. Naga Shadow, who I discussed in the last video, he is actually premiered for the first time as a ghost who is instructing Freedom Nadd on what to do and kind of instructing him in the ways of the Sith. So that's why when the Golden Age of the Sith came out, you got to find out more about who that guy is. Well, now Freedom Nadd, as you know, he will die, he'll become a spirit, and he's going to train Exar Kun in the next series, which is Dark Lords of the Sith. Now, all 3 of these books were written by Tom Veitch, and the 3rd book was actually in accordance with Kevin J. Anderson, who helped him out as well. Dark Lords of the Sith is about 2 wealthy siblings, Satel and Alima Keto, who learn a lot about Sith magic, meaning the poisons, how to infuse Sith magic into amulets and whatnot, and they form this dark side faction called the Kraith. Now, the Kraith go on to hurt Ulic Qel-Droma's Jedi Master, so he's all mad. He goes out to seek to destroy them. He goes undercover and kind of gets into the society, the Kraith society, as a double agent. Meanwhile, they talk about a student, Exar Kun, who you first heard about in Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Academy trilogy. And it talks about him as a young student, how he's grown very powerful. He wants to know more knowledge. He wants to know about the Sith and what they're all about. So he leaves the Jedi Academy, he goes to Onderon, and he finds the spirit of Freedom Nadd, who of course tricks him kind of into becoming a Dark Lord of the Sith, or learning the Sith magic at first. He's not a Dark Lord yet. And at the end of the book, of course it's going to end with a fight between Ulic Qel-Droma and Exar Kun. And at the end of this book, of course, they're both given the title of Dark Lord of the Sith, and then it bounces over to the next part in the story. And that's where I want to stop right now, because this is actually one of my favorite eras in the comic book series for Dark Horse. I really found this story so exhilarating and so exciting and so unique than anything else they ever told. One thing I do love about Tom Veitch's writing is it just like the same. This is the same guy who wrote Dark Empire, by the way, and a few of you have already asked whatever happened to him. So here's what I heard. Tom Veitch was the guy who helped out with the first few books from Dark Horse on Star Wars. After that, he disappeared. No one knows what happened. Well, according to some sources who are close to Mr. Veitch, he had a royalties dispute with Lucasfilm on the use of his characters. Now, remember what I said about contracts a couple of months ago on my channel? I wasn't that far off with the contracts in Star Wars. According to some people who have worked with Lucasfilm in the past, they've actually shared some of their contract information for me. And back in the day, if you did create a character in that universe, you own that character. You got royalties on that character if they were featured in other books or other movies or TV shows or video games. Now, back in the old days, video games wasn't included in the contract. And that's what Tom Veitch had a problem with. He thought that his characters, if they're going to be in a video game, he should be getting royalties on it. Now, nowadays, that is in the standard contract with Lucasfilm's authors now, supposedly. But back in the day, Tom Veitch was very upset because he had a character, a Vima Sunrider, who was the daughter of Nomi Sunrider, who almost was only featured as a little girl in the series. But she was supposed to be one of the main characters in Knights of the Old Republic. Bastila is who took her place. Bastila is the character who took over Vima Sunrider because they couldn't get the rights due to a royalties dispute with Tom Veitch. Now, on Tom Veitch's side, he said they were just being unfair about it. They were trying to cheat him out of money. On Lucasfilm's side, they said he was being difficult. So who knows who's telling the truth there. But because of a royalties dispute, he left. Vima Sunrider was not in KOTOR. Bastila was instead. And the rest is, as they say, history. Now, I haven't talked to Kevin J. Anderson about this, but when I see him in a few months at this Comic-Con I'm going to, I am going to ask him the question, did Tom Veitch share the rest of the story of Tales of the Jedi with Kevin J. Anderson while they were working on Dark Lords of the Sith? I believe he did, because the next two books in the series are written by Kevin J. Anderson, and he kind of completes the rest of the story of Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider, which I think is a beautiful ending, and we'll talk about that next week. But before I end, I do want to give a few short announcements. Folks, right now, if you haven't already heard, DarkHorseComics.com is doing a huge mega sale on every Star Wars digital comic dating back from the very first Marvel books to everything that Dark Horse has ever done. And you can get the entire bundle for $300. Folks, that is a steal. An average price for that would probably be around $2,700. So you're looking at 85% off the price. Now, I know some of you want the physical copies. Maybe you want some of the just trade paperbacks, and that's fine too, because they're doing 50% off all digital content. But that mega bundle, all the Star Wars comics ever made up to this point, for only $300 in digital format, that's a great deal. You should definitely take advantage of that. That's the cheapest way. If I didn't have every physical copy of the stuff they were offering, I would definitely get that deal. So go online, do that, share that with everyone else that you know who loves the EU, because they need to take advantage of that deal. But don't wait too long, because it ends January 1st when they lose the rights and it goes back to Marvel. But it is a great deal. Please take advantage of it. You have 2 days left to take advantage of it, and I highly recommend you get them. There is no better deal with those digital comic books you will ever see like that again. The second announcement, a little bit of confusion maybe, but with my podcast, they're not dedicated totally to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Remember I said I wanted to kind of explore new topics in those things. I will talk about Star Wars in one of the blogs, but this is where we're going to be celebrating the Expanded Universe, these videos right here, and this whole collection, and we have a bunch to still go through. Folks, that's all for today. I will see you next week with another video.